our kathwari.
Well, thank you very much for that long introduction. Assalamu alaikum. Now I know this is getting late, and you have all been at this from early morning, and I don't think you really want to hear too much from me. You have been here for a long, long time, so I'm going to keep it brief. And really, but what I would like to do is perhaps ask you really to have a conversation. Because on my table and coming in, I was given 6 different subjects to talk about. So I said, if that is the case, I've got to forget my prepared remarks and talk about what's of interest to you. However, I would also like to mention the importance of what you're doing. About 2 years back, I was invited by the president of the Chicago Council on Global Affairs on a task force that they were establishing called the American Muslim Task Force. And the objective of that task force was to discuss and make recommendations of how Muslim Americans can get better involved in civic and political affairs. So I thought about it and I asked him, why don't you set one up called the American Christian Task Force, or American Buddhist or Hindu Task Force? What would it look like? They were a little bit surprised at the question. Because I have mixed feelings about these kinds of events. Because on one hand, they're very important. On the other hand, they do create an issue. There are 2 communities in America that have also a religious identification. That is Jewish Americans and Muslim Americans. And when you have that kind of an identity, you're also considered a monolith. That is, we all think alike. We all look alike, and because of that, if one is not careful, everybody is put into the same basket. However, I decided to co-chair with Lynn Martin, the former Secretary of Labor and a member of Congress from Illinois for many, many years. And they put together a task force of 32 persons, 16 Muslim Americans and 16 others. And I see Salam Mariati is also here. He was one of the members of the 16 Muslim Americans. Well, this task force took 15 months. If I had known going in that I had to go to Chicago almost every month, I would not have agreed. And it was a highly discussed, studied, debated, we reviewed the role of the media, we reviewed the role of the politicians, we reviewed the roles of the various organizations, and as you can understand, it's a very important and also many issues of concern. I think I had more challenges managing these 32 persons, especially 16 Muslim Americans, than running a public company. However, the good news is that after a great deal of debate and discussion, they all agreed on a consensus report which was released last year and has given many recommendations. And one of the recommendations is that Muslim organizations must help shape the debate. And that's what Canada is doing. So your organization is good. It's important that you get together. But the important thing is this, that you help shape the debate in the right way. Because if not, we'll all be considered and be part of this one monolith and get into trouble. That's the challenge we have. That's why what we heard earlier was great remarks. We heard tremendous amount of wisdom. Now, very briefly, as you know, I'm involved in a number of activities. I chair an organization called Refugees International. I'm involved with the International Rescue Committee and the board of a few universities. And to pay for all of that, I work at Ethan Allen. Now, I've had this pleasure of heading this company for over 20 years. And Ethan Allen is as I'm sure some of you know, is a great American classic brand. And about 24, 25 years back, this classic brand, which was today is celebrating its 75th year, needed reinvention. It was well regarded for quality, but like all great brands, it was losing its market share because of the fact that it was some lagging behind in many, many important attributes. So our challenge was to reinvent this great American brand by building on the important attributes it had. Now, you've also heard of my background, that I come from somewhat of an unusual background, where my early childhood in Kashmir, as some of the young folks here who know of me, was that I spent most of my time captaining a cricket team in Kashmir, and secondarily I went to studies because, as was mentioned, studying literature and political science was for those students who really were not studying. Otherwise you'll be a doctor, you'll be an engineer. When you went to those subjects, it meant you're going to you'll go into forestry or police or somewhere else. In any case, I was fortunate after studying literature and political science, I ended up in New York. But I learned over there, all those years, from junior school to high school to college, captaining a team, taught me a lot about leading teams, building teams. And then, of course, I went and I did an MBA here that gave me some more technical knowledge. I also realized that, as we heard also earlier today, that unless you build a team that is motivated, and a team where the team plays together, and as you know, those who know cricket, the captain of the cricket team plays with the team. Unlike, for instance, I give this example to my associates, that the coach of a baseball stays outside, giving advice, chewing gum or tobacco or whatever, while the captain of a cricket team is right there, playing, strategizing, and being part of the team. So that was my background, and early on I realized that to be successful, I'm going to really run cricket teams here. But I also realized that I must establish certain basic principles under which we will operate. And these principles came from many, many sources, certainly our own religion, our background. And if you go to the Ethan Allen website, you will see, we call them leadership principles, and there are 10 of them. We established them about 20 years back. Those leadership principles are very common sense, and you will sort of start recognizing them. First is work hard. You know, it's amazing how many people over all these years, they get surprised when I tell them you have to really work hard. They say, we didn't know that. We want to make sure that our leaders set an example. They've got to work hard too, otherwise you can't ask people to do it. In our leadership principle is that you must have the self-confidence to empower others. And I'm sure you're going to see the similarities of what we heard earlier. Another one is relative importance of priorities. The leader's responsibility is to establish priorities. With all of us, in businesses, in our personal lives, are confronted with priorities, daily. I spend most of my time determining what are the 5 or 6 or 7 things we'll do, even with thousands of people and hundreds of managers, we can only do a few things. So, relative importance of priorities. We know an ache in your foot is different than if you've got heartache, if you're trouble with your heart or cancer. You cannot treat them equally. So, relative importance of priorities is critical.